AI hallucination is reported to be the #1 problem in the AI industry today. And despite what the major companies report, it hasn't really gotten much better. But don't worry, because in this video, I'm going to show you how to never have to worry about AI hallucination again. Let's take a look. All right, right now I'm in my designer agent. I'm going to hop over to my general agent, and let me show you how this works. What we have to understand is that these things aren't people. If you ask it a question, it's not trying to think of a response, but rather it's just trying to assemble the most statistically probable group of words based on whatever you wrote. So if I said something like, write a text message to my wife with a shopping list, and I send this as is. All right, now this is an agent, so it's calling its tools, seeing if it can find some more information. So it desperately searched 3 times through my documents, and then it finally just wrote me a response. So what I'm trying to point out here is that every single item on this list is 100% hallucinated by the AI. And of course it is, because I didn't actually tell it what to put on the list. So we put it in this situation where it has to write this text message, and obviously it has to put something on it, but it doesn't have the information of what we need, which means that it's just going to generate something that looks kind of like a shopping list. I know this seems super obvious, but stay with me. So I'm going to start a brand new conversation, and this time I'm going to say, write a text message to my wife with the shopping list, but I'm going to tell it we need pineapple, spaghetti, and basil because I have the worst meal combination planned for the night. So now if I send this, it now has the information to draw from. All right, and this time it gave me a list with exactly these 3 things. And you remember the previous one was like 10 items long, but this one just lists the 3 items that I gave it. And what I want to suggest to you is that if you can shift your thinking around AI so that it's always like this, then you will never see another hallucination. But for that to be true, there's a little bit more that you need to understand, so stay with me. Because you see, even though it accurately put all of the items on the list, there could be other details that in certain circumstances are going to be really important. And if you don't add those details into your message, then there will be those circumstances where you're still going to see hallucination. So just as an example, let's do a new one. And this time, let's say the same thing, but we're going to add in, I call her Pookie Bear, and I end every message with a kiss emoji, right? You see, the last message ended with a heart emoji. And it could very well be that in the context of me messaging back and forth with my wife, the previous message where it had a heart emoji was actually a hallucination. All right, because look at the sentence that we created here. Look at what it's made of. We have Pookie Bear, we have pineapple, spaghetti, basil, and we have the kiss face emoji. Everything else here is text that's generated by the AI. Literally, everything is hallucinated except what we directly give it. So the claim that I want to make to you here is that everything the AI says is either from its context or it's a hallucination. So let me show you this in a real world example. In the last video, we did a showdown between Claude Opus and GLM5, and I was having it create my sales page. Okay, but first I had it create this lead capture. And this lead capture, I actually told it to create an offer. I purposefully didn't give it any information other than that, because in this case, I wanted it to hallucinate, because the literal information that it puts in here doesn't matter in this context. So literally, all of this is hallucinated, except for the name Eilons, which it would have found in its context, and the fact that we do AI automation here. But on the other hand, when I created the sales page with Opus, you see now, I gave it specific information, and let me just quickly show you what that information looks like. So here in the homepage folder, I have this document. This document is all of the copy that I wanted to put into the homepage. Now, this document was written by AI. At least originally it was. And then there were 2 other episodes where I painstakingly went through it line by line and cleaned up a lot of the language. So what's left is a human cleaned version of what the AI came up with. And I ended up rewriting a lot of it anyway. But I didn't actually get through editing all of it. And that's going to end up being real important in a second. So going back, here's our sales page. Let me load it in a new frame. All of this indeed is what I had in the document. So all of this text that we're looking at here, I know for a fact that it's correct, even before I read it thoroughly, because I know that that's how AI works. If I give it exactly what to put, then it's going to put exactly that. So the AI hallucinated when it created my landing page, but for my sales page, it is hallucination free, except there's a problem. If I scroll down to the bottom here, we have this pricing table. And on this pricing table, we have this business tier that is allegedly $149 per month. Except that the actual top tier is not called business, and it's only $99 per month. Okay, but it gets worse. When we look at what's being offered in this business tier, we have this here team workspaces. All right, but we don't actually offer team workspaces. That means that this was made up. This is a hallucinated feature. And if I let that get into the final sales page, a fake feature could tend to cause problems. So I just want to take a quick look at that source document that we gave it again. Here in homepage, if I scroll down to the bottom of this, we actually have a section right here. And sure enough, we have a business tier that costs $149 per month, and it offers team workspaces. So my sales page actually did not hallucinate. My sales page reliably reproduced the information that it had. The information that it had a mistake in it. This is really important because this means that hallucinations can propagate. It means that if you have a hallucination in your source material, that hallucination can compound over every generation of new content that you create from it. So what all this means is that when I created this page here, when I created the document that would have all of the copy in it, the AI hallucinated when it wrote this, and then that hallucination propagated into the sales page. But again, we just said a second ago that hallucination can only happen if we're not giving it enough information. So now we have to trace it back another step, because when I had the AI create this homepage, this document with all the copy in it, I gave it these 3 source documents. Basically, I told the agent, take these 3 documents, read them, and then write a sales page. So if we look at these, we have a description of all of the features, and this is pretty thorough. This is everything that Eidolons does. Okay, so then we have Eidolons market opportunities. This is deep research that I had another AI agent do. And then finally, we had this one other document that just talks a little bit about the actual methodology that I'm using to create agents. Now, between the 3 of these documents, we're feeding in a lot of information. And this can be a trap, because when we give it all this information, we think surely it must have enough. It must now have enough details about my company that it's not going to get anything wrong in this homepage. But you see, this is a part where we forgot to call her Pookie Bear. You see, because what happened is when we told the AI to write a sales page, it thinks, okay, well, a sales page has pricing information on it. A sales page has a list of the features in each tier. We told it to create a sales page. This information is part of what a sales page looks like. We did not give it this information, and therefore it hallucinated its own. So what that means is that if I had given it this information, then it would have not hallucinated. And it really is this simple. For a lot of people, this means that we have to think about AI differently. If we're just randomly asking it questions, then we need to expect that the answer is going to be a hallucination, which is still fine. It's fine to go and ask ChatGPT for advice on whatever, but you always have to take it with a grain of salt and always verify every answer that it gives you. Now, there is actually one more caveat that I want to add here, because this sales page that we looked at a second ago, it actually does have hallucinations all over the place. So earlier when I said that it was hallucination free, that wasn't entirely true. Like this line right here, it says, workflows as powerful as code, as simple as writing. But if I look back at the original document, what the document actually says is workflows in plain language, as powerful as they are simple. So just to be clear, everything that I've said up until now is absolutely true. But there's this one caveat that I haven't mentioned yet. You see, when I had it create this, I not only fed it the source document, I also gave it all of the files in this site design folder. And this contains 4 large deep research files. And each one of them is really, really big. And the information in these is pretty good, and it made it do a pretty good job at the design. But the point here is that these files are huge. And that means that I basically just filled up the agent's context. And that entire example I gave you before of the shopping list with the pineapple and the basil, this principle only works up until a certain point. If you flood the agent's context, then it starts to forget. So the solution to this is to keep your context relatively small. Or if you have to put in a lot of information, then just expect hallucinations. Because if you're expecting hallucinations, then you can fix them. For instance, now that I know that this is hallucinated, I can just come to my agent over here and tell him, double check the copy on this sales page and make sure it is the same as, and then this is the path to the file, and I'm just going to add nothing extra. So this is your final tip to protect against AI hallucinations. In situations where it does hallucinate, you can come back after the fact and have it do another pass to make sure that the hallucinations get cleaned up. All right, so now 19 tool calls later, it's finished, and let's see if it cleaned it up correctly. Let's give ourselves some more space here. Yep, this looks a little bit more accurate now, and there's some interesting things I noticed, right? So this is now the exact exact headline from the other document. And because of the way that it designed it, it actually doesn't fit very well as a headline. So probably what it did before was it rewrote it so that it would fit better. But I would still contend that it only did that because its context was completely bloated. So this is still far from a finished sales page, of course. There's a lot that I still need to do here. But now you can see how everything traces back to the context and how even if it messes up, you can still nudge it back towards the original context and still beat hallucination. So I want to hear from you guys. What's the craziest hallucination you've ever gotten? Tell me down in the comments, and also like and subscribe. And thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.